former member of Teatro Campesino, and now he's a member of Alumbre. Daniel will give us a musical history of the Chicano in the United States. And now to Daniel.
Lejos de mi tierra, ¿dónde está mi gente? No puedo evitarlo, lloro de repente. México querido, ¿cómo te recuerdo? Es que soy un pobre mexicano ausente. Extraño tus pueblos y tus campanarios que suenan la gloria llamando el rosario. Van llorando cosas, te siento presente, es que soy un pobre mexicano ausente. Van llorando cosas, te siento presente, es que soy un pobre mexicano ausente. Esa mi bandera de los tres colores, sus bellas mujeres, los cantos, las flores y mis viejecitos que han quedado lejos y tantos amigos que son tan parejos. Mariachis y tequila, bailes y canciones, todas esas cosas que alegran los corazones. Van llorando cosas, te siento presente, es que soy un pobre mexicano ausente. Van llorando cosas, te siento presente, es que soy un pobre mexicano ausente. That song was written by a campesino, a farm worker named Pedro Hernandez, and in it he remembers Mexico, the country, the people, the culture that he left behind when he came here to the United States. And it's a sad song, written perhaps one day when he was heading north towards Los Angeles on the freeway, and the Border Patrol stops his car in San Clemente, and they ask him, "¿Dónde nació usted, boy? Let me see your green card." And he feels out of place because he's a stranger in an alien land. And a lot of Mexicanos have felt that way. And a lot of Mexicanos have returned home to their homeland where they can feel like a part of the country again. But many of them choose to stay here because they have a family, a car, or maybe they're buying a home. But they still get together with other Mexicanos and they remember Mexico. They remember Mexico in song and in dances by getting together with other Mexicanos at celebrations like baptisms and weddings, things of this kind. And they cultivate memories which they pass on to their kids. And one of the memories that continues to survive in Mexican families is the memory of the Mexican Revolution, La Revolución de Emiliano Zapata y Francisco Villa. Mexican families everywhere have stories about your uncle or your grandfather or your grandmother, how your abuelita was a rielera. This was a woman who rode the railroad cars with her husband. She cooked the meals, she took care of the kids, but at times she actually picked up a rifle and fought alongside the men. This was a rielera. They were fighting for land and liberty. They were poor campesinos, poor country soldiers, fighting to protect their village lands from greedy plantation owners who wanted to take over their fields. And after it was all over, they would write corridos, which are songs that would commemorate the heroes of the day, or they would commemorate special events that happened during the revolution, like the time that Emiliano Zapata and Francisco Villa rode triumphantly into Mexico City, or the day that Pancho Villa bombarded General Pershing's troops from one of their own stolen airplanes. Corridos de la Revolución. Voy a contarles, señores, la historia de un rancherito que por ser hombre valiente y sabe pelear bonito, en la cámara pusieron su nombre muy bien escrito. Mató mucho muchos federales y uno que otro señorito. Luego por todo Chihuahua nomás se escucha este grito: vamos a salvar la patria, vénganse mis muchachitos. Viva Madero, viva Carranza, viva Zapata y viva Obregón. Que viva Villa, el mero padre de la revolución. En la estación de Irapuato cantaban los horizontes. Ahí combatió formar la brigada Bracamonte. En la estación de Irapuato cantaban los horizontes. 1916, Pancho Villa raids Columbus, New Mexico, and President Woodrow Wilson sends General John J. Blackjack Pershing into Mexican territory on a punitive expedition, searching for Pancho Villa. Hoy nuestro México, febrero 23, nos mandó Wilson 6,000 americanos, 2,000 caballos, 200 aeroplanos, buscando a Villa por todo el país. Los de a caballo no se podían sentar y los de a pie no podían caminar. Pancho Villa les pasa en aeroplano y desde arriba les dice: ¡Viva México, hijos de la chingada! ¿Qué pensarían los americanos de combatir en un baile de carquís? Con las caras cubiertas de vergüenza se tuvieron que volver a su país. Yo soy nacido en la sierra de Chihuahua, soy el soldado más fiel del batallón. Viva Villa y que viva sus dorados, y que viva la revolución. 1919, April 10th. A day that will live on in the minds of the Mexican people as a stain upon our history. Emiliano Zapata is assassinated in Chinameca. Año de 1919, fecha exacta. Un domingo 10 de abril le dieron muerte a Zapata. Pancho Villa, the leader from the north, would die in a hail of bullets in the streets of Parral, Chihuahua. It is the end of the revolution. Adiós torres de Chihuahua, adiós torres de cantera. Ahí viene Francisco pa' quitarles lo pantera. Ya llegó Francisco Villa pa' devolver la frontera. The revolution ended in confusion, as generals would turn against generals, and assassination became the order of the day. But the poor people who actually fought in the revolution, they still had a hope for a better life. And that hope brought many naturally north towards the border, where on one side you have a poor, underdeveloped nation, and on the other side you have the richest nation in the history of the world. So a lot of our parents came to this side of the border because this was where the better life was. And they came across illegally or legally with a green card, or they had to swim illegally, swim across the river and becoming mojados. Or if they had enough money, they would pay a coyote to smuggle them across. And once here, they would find work at whatever they could find, which was usually the lowest paid jobs that no one else would accept. So you would find Mexicanos working in the fields in the Rio Grande Valley, or in the desert heat of the Imperial Valley in California, And they would be scattered all over the country because they were following the crops on the migrant stream. So you would find Mexicanos in Chicago, in Indiana, Washington, Idaho. And they began to find themselves in the cities as well, because they would find that the jobs that they could find in the cities paid a little bit more than the ones in the fields, but they were still the lowest paying jobs, the jobs that no one else would accept. And at each one of these changes, the Chicano goes through different changes. The Chicano that lives in the city is different from the Chicano that lives on the migrant stream. The migrant farm worker is different from the people that live in Mexico. But these changes reflect the most in the kids. In Los Angeles in the 1940s, kids were growing up on the streets. They were the new generation, the product of Mexicano parents, but they were US citizens. The parents, though, they were shielded for the most part from the prejudice and hostility of Anglo society, but the kids, they got it all. In school, they were ridiculed and punished for speaking Spanish with their friends. And when they went to the theater for relaxation to go to the movies, they had to sit on the Mexican side of the theater. But rather than adjust to this hostility by becoming like everybody else, by dropping their language and their culture, they resisted. And this resistance took form in the way they dressed. Babadoo wap bop babadoo bam babadoo babadoo babam babadoo buddy buddy badoo wap bop bam buddy 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 badoo wap bam buddy 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 badoo wap bop babadoo buddy 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 badoo wap bam buddy 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 badoo wap bam bada 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 bam bam buddy 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 badoo wap bam buddy 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 badoo wap bop bam buddy 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 badoo wap bam buddy 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 badoo wap bop bam buddy 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 badoo wap bada 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 ba pa 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 ba da ba da ba pa 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 ba da ba da ba pa 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 ba da ba da ba ba da ba pa pa ba pa 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 ba da ba da ba pa 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 ba da ba da ba pa 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 ba da ba da ba da ba pa. ¿Qué hubo, le carnales? Yo soy el Chale ese. Not Charlie, man, el Chale. Yo soy de la 38th. Hey, you like my drapes, man? Hey, this tacuchi cost me 300 bolas. And you know what? My jefita, she put in some zippers here on the ankle so I could get into my reed pleats, you know? All of us in the 38th Street gang, we all have buenas garras, you know? We all águila, bien águila, because we're snappy dressers. And we all have our own language, which we call caló, which is a mixture of English and Spanish and our own made-up words, like this, guacha. Oye, ¿sabes qué, carnal? Me estás cayendo gordo. Cálmenla, cálmenla. I was just kidding, ese. ¿Me entiendes, Mendes? Oh, Simón, carnal. Like that, you know? You know, when we're hanging out down on Whittier Boulevard, we always stand asina, like this. You want to know why? To show off the pleats, man. You spend 300 bolas on a tacuchi and you want to show it off a little bit. But there's another reason. It's because you're always ready, you know? Always looking side to side, con los ojales pelados, you know? So you can pull out your filero and defend yourself at any time. Because you never know who's going to jump you in the barrio ese. On June 3rd, 1943, American sailors ambushed a group of Chicano youths in the Alpine district of Los Angeles. They went on a rampage, breaking into the Carmen Theater, tearing off suits, beating young Chicanos, leaving them naked, bleeding in the streets. For 5 consecutive nights, American servicemen terrorized an entire community, while the Los Angeles Police Department stood by and did nothing. At the climax, even blacks and Filipinos were victimized, until finally military shore patrols quelled the riot, accomplishing what the Los Angeles police could not. They call these the Pachuco riots, but the Pachucos never rioted. It was a lynch mob of American servicemen terrorizing the East Los Angeles community and being labeled heroes by the local press. But times weren't always bad for the Pachuco, you know. They would get together with the gang and they'd go hang out at the dance on Saturday nights. They'd go to the Rainbow Ballroom or the Aragon or the Palomar. And they'd be holding up the wall like everybody else, checking out the action. Maybe ask Mary Lou to do the boogie woogie with you. just like today. They love to dance those slow dances, you know, where you could cuddle up real close and pull your moves on Rosa Maria. Creí que tu vida era mía y que tú me querías como yo te quiero a ti. Canté la ilusión de mi anhelo, hubo sol en mi cielo y alegría en mi vivir. Después mi canción se hizo triste, lloré porque ya te perdí. Creí que tu vida era mía y que tú me querías como yo te quiero a ti. Hello, baby. Would you like to dance, Esa? You live around here? Oh, I bet you make fantastic tortillas, Esa. What's that? Keep my hands to myself. You know you like it, baby. Creí que tu vida era mía y que tú me querías como yo te quiero a ti, como yo te quiero a ti. What the Pachucos were actually saying to society was, we do not want to become a part of your melting pot. The melting pot being the concept where people who come here from another country are expected to drop their culture and drop their language and embrace totally this indescribable American culture. Well, what is American culture? Nobody can tell you because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. But the melting pot hits us all, and it hits us all very hard. I remember when I was in school, I had a teacher who very much believed in this concept. And one day, she had me in front of the entire class come up and give an example in the way people speak. So she wrote two words on the blackboard, and it was C-H-O-P and S-H-O-P. So I got up there, and I knew that I can speak very good English, so I got up there and I read, oh, that's easy. It's chop and it's chop. And the teacher said, no, it's chop and shop. Shop. So I said, well, that's what I said. I said, chop and chop. And she said, no, it's chop and shop. Shop. And by this time, the class is just cracking up. They're rolling all over the floor because this guy can't speak English. He can't read these words. Well, maybe I should explain. In Spanish, the alphabet goes A, B, C, Che. Che is actually written into the alphabet, but you will never find a word beginning with SH. So when Chicanos come here to the United States and they see words beginning with CH or SH, there's confusion about how to pronounce it. So that's what was happening to me in the classroom that day. But at the melting pot, it hit me again. It hit me when we moved to California. When we were in Texas, I was in the habit of taking my lunch to school. And here in California, it was no different. So my first day in the lunchroom, I walk in with my little lunch bag, you know, with chorizo stains on the bottom. And I pull out this burrito wrapped in wax paper. And I peel off the wax paper like a banana. And I'm just about ready to eat. And I notice that everybody at the table is staring at me. All these blonde-haired, blue-eyed faces staring at my burrito. And nobody's saying a word. Nobody's laughing. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's eating. And then finally, the little girl across the table, she says, yuck, what's that? But it's a burrito. It's a tortilla wrapped with meat inside and guacamole and vegetables and everything. It's delicious. You want to try it? And she said, no, you're not supposed to eat that. You're supposed to eat sandwiches, white bread sandwiches. So by this time, the table just erupts into laughter, and I'm feeling really embarrassed. So I put my burrito away, I lose my appetite. And that afternoon I go home to my mother and I say, Mamá, mira, ya no quiero llevar burritos. I don't want to take burritos to school anymore. I want to take sandwiches, white bread sandwiches. So she goes out to the store and she buys me a loaf of bread. So the next day she packs me a sandwich and I walk into the lunchroom all confident, with my little lunch bag. No chorizo stains this time, because I know that I have a sandwich in the bag. So I pull out my sandwich and all these faces are giving me their seal of approval. Yes, he's one of us. He has a sandwich. So I get ready to eat it and I chomp into it. And after the first bite, my face turns red and I start getting embarrassed. And I put the sandwich away in the bag quick before anybody can see. And the reason was because my mom, instead of putting bologna in the sandwich, she'd put in beans. A frijol sandwich. So once again, I have to go home to my mother and I say, Mamá, mira, con frijoles, no. Con carne, con bologna or salami or algo, with lechuga y mayonnaise y pickles y mustard y todo. Yo quiero llevar los sándwiches como los demás. I want to be like everybody else. Yo quiero ser americano como los demás. I want to be American like everybody else. So I started taking sandwiches. I finally got my act together. And I took sandwiches all the way through elementary school and through junior high and through high school. But after a while, I began to miss those burritos. So when I started working, I started taking burritos to lunch again. And everybody would stare at my burritos still. But this time they would say, hey, that's a burrito, and that's a homemade burrito. Why don't you tell your mom to pack one for me? Because ever since then, we've all been introduced to Taco Bell and Mr. Taco. And we all know how delicious Mexican food can be and how nutritious it is as well. But the melting pot, it hit us in our minds, and we felt ashamed of our language, ashamed of our culture, until we as Chicanos looked within ourselves to find that we are already a melting pot. We are Europeans from the Spaniards who came to conquer Mexico. And the Indios that were here waiting for them give us our Indio blood. And because the Indios may have migrated from Asia through Alaska, and because scientifically we are considered from the same racial tree, we are Asian as well. And lastly, Chicanos are North African, because the Moors were in Spain for 700 years, leaving their blood in our Spanish forefathers. We looked within and found that we are a melting pot. And it is this message of unity and peace that we as Chicanos are trying to spread through the media, through songs, through plays like Luis Valdez's Zoot Suit, through movies. A few years ago, there was a television program that got us as Chicanos very excited. I remember the day it happened too. I was with the Teatro Campesino rehearsing in the warehouse. And somebody said, hey, there's going to be a new program on about Chicanos, about the Chicanos living in the barrio. And we were all excited because finally a program that's going to deal with the Chicano, was going to deal with the real life problems, struggles of the Chicano here in the United States. And we watched it and we were all really disappointed because they had a Puerto Rican playing a Chicano. And worse still, they had no Chicano names at all on the writing staff. But through all that ripoff, all that misunderstanding of what that show was intended to be, there came a message, and that message survived. The message of unity and peace. If you listen to the words of the title song, you will understand what that show was intended to be about, but what failed to meet. Chico, don't be discouraged. The man, he ain't so hard to understand. Chico, if you try now, I know that you can lend a helping hand. Because there's good in everyone, and a new day has begun. You can see the morning sun if you try. Oh, I know, things will be better. I know they will for Chico and the man. He thinks you're trying to bust up all of his dreams. But that man, he don't know now that we got our own crazy pleasant schemes. Because there's good in everyone, and a new day has begun. You can see the morning sun if you try. Oh, I know, things will be better. I know they will for Chico and the man. I know they will for Chico and the man. And the man. Riding down the streets of L.A. pachucando, vacilando. Riding down the streets of L.A. in my low-rider car, pachucando, vacilando, Chico. Thank you very much.
Okay, you just saw Daniel Villalva from Martinez, and he's a former member of Teatro Campesino. I don't think you can hear me. You can't hear me. Okay, that was Daniel Villalva from Martinez, and he's a former member of Teatro Campesino and is a member of Alumbre. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing things about him later on. We want to thank Daniel and his guests for coming down tonight. And if you enjoyed the program, make sure to call us at 785-4917, 785-4917. We'd like to say happy birthday to Mary Apodaca, who turned 18 last Monday, I believe. So Mary was supposed to be here tonight also, and she's not here. Also, there's going to be a disco dance at the Newark Pavilion by Mary Apodaca, and I believe it's Apodaca Enterprises now, I'm not sure. But again, we wish Mary all the best in the world. Also, Tony Guerra, we hope that you get your cosa together so you can come down and help us out on the program. I think we're going to be closing off pretty soon. Okay, and thank you for watching Barrio Expressions.
Yeah, this is Community Channel 3. We're running a minute or two behind schedule tonight.
Now, music. When I first got my boots, they were hard and stiff. Now, how long did it take to break them in? Let's use the idiom break in. It took 4 months, 3 weeks to break them in. So let's see. How long? Do you remember how long it took to break them in? 3 months to break. It took about 3 months to break them in. It took about 3 months to break them in. And now they are broken in. Broken in. Every day, all day. So, slowly, we're moving every day. So we're broken in. This is it has another meaning. Usually we use it with something new, like shoes, boots, or a new car. New cars must drive slow for the first 2,000-3,000 miles until the engine becomes broken in. If you get a brand new car, you have to drive slowly for the first few thousand miles until the engine gets broken in. Also, we use it as another name for a new employee, new worker in a company or a farm or office. Means to learn how to do everything, to be broken in. The boss is breaking in the new employee. When a person is becoming skilled in a new job, he is being broken in. Learning the ropes. Remember, at first he comes into a new job and he is green. And as he learns, he is being broken in. And learning how. Okay, it sounds like we used the when first. It's okay, it's not wrong. I am using